Hi, everybody. I'm on tonight on Facebook Live for the Shadow Hour. And for those people that haven't seen it before, normally we have a guest. Internet problems and everything tonight with the hot weather has prevented us from going ahead and doing that. Of course, what we are going to do is we're going to just have like a question and answer. You ask it, I'll see if I can answer it. Plus, I have a few things that I like to discuss in the beginning before we go to the questions. And I want to talk about some of the people that are usually on with Shadow Hunters during the week. And, like for instance, on Monday nights, not on Shadow Hunters, or not on Shadow Hour, but not on Shadow Hunters either. But on Monday night, there's a meeting of Psychics United, which is quite interesting. If anybody's remotely interested in looking into that, that's a good opportunity to figure it out. So they're on Monday night. Tuesday night is Sharon's Tarot Card Tuesday. Uh, that's always interesting. What's really interesting about that is Sharon's really good at it. And I really enjoy watching her, and she's our medium, one of our mediums. And she's on Tuesdays, and she does that from about 6 o'clock. I think it is 6:30. On usually past way past 7. So she's there, and then on Wednesdays is Scotty Rourke, who has his show, and usually he has his paranormal show. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm just trying to find out what's going on with this thing because I know I'm live. But I just want to be okay with this. Usually I've seen one or two. Hey, Chris, that's the bad news for tonight. I'm sorry to say this, but Jason's not going to be on there because we don't have the connections to go ahead and put it all in order with our internet being down pretty much north of here where uh, my partner is usually takes the command post and then we all go through his. So that's why I'm on this live Facebook. I'm not that well versed in it, so this show tonight's going to be basically, like I said earlier, it's going to be questions and answers. Sharon's on. Hey, Sharon. Questions and answers. I've started to talk a little bit about everybody being on during the week for Shadow Hunters. Friday night. Yeah, I will follow up, Chris, on Jason. I talked to him earlier, explained the situation, and told him we would have him up later on in the month, probably at towards the end of July. So I know he's a very busy man, a lot busier than I ever wanted to be, and his tail's on fire all the time. So it's hard to go ahead and make sure that I get him on there and I get him pinned down for at least the length of the show. So he's a fantastic guy. I'm very fortunate to have met him. Courtney too, and I've been on various investigations with him in Tennessee. I've been with him in Ohio at Mansfield. Great group. He has some great people. They do great investigations, and they cover everything. And that's what we want to do here. So we want to go ahead and give you people an idea of what's exactly available out there. as far as the paranormal is concerned, and what we think we need to do to keep it going up here the same way. Tony's on. Hey, Tony. The big part of that would be is who I am, and I'm a member of Shadowhunters Paranormal. I got into this to help Nicholas with the group. I came from GRS, and I'm still with GRS, Ghost Research Society, on the south side of Chicago. So I've been with them too. And it's two different worlds. And it's from one side of the state. Up here, we're right on the border, 10 minutes outside of Wisconsin. So, and down there, you're on the south side of Chicago. A lot of the investigations that we've done have been all in Indiana, Southern Illinois, Ohio, Indiana once again, West Virginia, Lake Erie, lighthouses, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really a great ride. I'm glad that Dale Kazmarek and GRS gave me the opportunity to become something that I wanted to do for a long time. So with that, I would want to talk about a few of the other groups that are out there. One of them is the Singular Fortean Society, which not only covers the paranormal, it also uncovers anything that is paranormal, cryptics, the works. Today we went ahead and posted another picture of some creature from South America that was on top of a couple wires downtown, and when somebody sort of spooked him, he got up in there, he did one flap of those wings, and he was gone. So it's one of those things where you go ahead and you get into stuff like that, and you see things, and you know that maybe people create them, and so there's a lot of stuff that passes through Singular Fortean, and that would be, I'd have to think about it for a minute, for a second, but that's one organization that's outside of MUFON. And then you've got Tobias Wayland and his wife, Wendy, and they pretty much run Fortean. And I'm a Patreon member of their group. And I love it. And it's really neat to be able to put some of my time not only into the paranormal, but also with them. So I am, how could you say, very interested in some of them, some of the things that go on, and there's others that I don't pay that close of attention to, but I know all the cryptics and all the different creatures that are around now lately that have been studied. Wendy, I don't know if I even have that right. I don't think I do. Okay, I'm not going to get into that part. So here we are. That was one group that's for people that are on the verge of going ahead and looking into different things. If they want to really go ahead and break it down in the beginning and say, well, I don't know if I really want to go ahead and become part of, I don't know if I want to be a ghost hunter. So some people, go on and some people don't. And I always get into things because I like to see it through to the end. Once they go ahead and verify the fact there are ghosts, and we know there are, but I'm saying as far as the government, like UFOs, they don't want to tell anybody anything about anything. So once we have some credibility behind us, I know the reason that I joined a little later on was the fact that back in the day, when I was younger, My first experience was when I was 10 years old, and that happened at Gettysburg. And not only was it me, but it was my father and my sister and my grandmother and my uncle that experienced the same sounds, the horses and the cannons and the rifles and the men screaming, and it all came in with the wind and then left with the wind. So by the end of the day, we had heard countless noises that were all done just like they were if they had a reenactment on a battlefield. Back then in that day, there weren't any reenactments, so, you know, it's a shame. Melissa's on. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for stopping by. That's where I come from, and afterwards I would go ahead and pay attention to people like Hans Holzer and other people through the years, and finally they started coming up with the shows, you know, on TV, the paranormal shows and Ghost Hunters, you know, when that first came out. And I was transfixed to the screen more than I was with Scully and what's his name? I can't think of that program either right now. But anyway, you get the drift. We all come from pretty much the same backgrounds. Some of us have been in a different situation with jobs and everything else, and even at the jobs you had to be careful about what you said and what you talked about. I know that we have some new equipment coming to Shadow Hunters, and that's going to help us out too as far as our sound is concerned. Nicholas has done an amazing job with all the video and all the work he does as far as the sites are concerned, putting them up to date. He's always interested in keeping everybody on the point of knowing exactly when something has gone down. You know, he's always been very, very good at that. So the situation, can you guys hear me okay? That would be the big question, number one. If somebody would just go on there and just answer and say, yes, I can hear you, I would feel a little more at ease. I was waiting for Nicholas to come back on it, and I didn't see him. Another one of the groups that's out there, and these Patreon groups, you know, you get all these extra little things pertaining to shows and views, and the Haunted Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult was something that Greg and Dana Newkirk did. And Sharon, if you're on there, send me a note. Yes? Okay, good. Now I feel better. For a second there I thought I wasn't hearing right. That show, the Haunted Museum, the Paranormal and the Occult, deals with a lot of, thank you. Dale's on too. I interviewed Dale last week when we had everything up and running internet wise. Hey Laura. And he's a great mentor. He's meant a lot to me over the years that I've been with him. And you can always learn something from Dale. And Dale has a show that he usually runs on Ghost Research or Dale Kazmarek, his Facebook page. And he does some amazing information, live Facebook stuff pertaining to not only GRS, but all the equipment, all the investigations. He's done spirit photography. He does everything in that area. So it's really interesting to see him, and you can't lose by watching him. That's for sure. If you're interested in any of this stuff, and a lot of the people that are on here right now, pay real close attention to everything that's in the paranormal community. And I know that there's a lot to be learned still today for me and for everybody else as far as different ways of trying to communicate, different ways of adding on to old different experiments that we tried over time. And I know that it's always been like when we were, an example would be when we went and we were in Old South Pittsburgh. We pretty much covered every area of ghost hunting techniques that you possibly could think of. Everything from dowsing rods um, to EVP sessions, to still photography, to movies, IR movies with IR lights and hallways. And everything's been covered. And we've done a lot of work in shadow hunters with what's referred to as an Estes method. And that's where you take a spirit box, an SP7, and you take that and you run a jack to a set of headphones, and you do your sweeps like you would do live. And just everybody would hear it. Well, the problem with that is a lot of times a lot of that information was a little clouded, or as far as it being pure is always tainted because people were saying different things in the background. You know, it said this, it said that. I looked at that, and the place that really hit me at home was when we were at Gettysburg, and I was down on the triangular field, and I was like almost a good 70 yards away from where everybody was at the top of the hill. And there was an experiment that was being conducted with a spirit box. And they were getting answers to different questions, and it pertained to a soldier and his injury. And as it turned out, you know, some of the things you could hear plain as day, and people were arguing that that's not what it said. And it was like, I could hear it plain as day where I was 70 yards away, you know. And how can you go ahead and, you know, you're just going to screw up all your evidence by having all that in the background. So the Estes method picked up for me and started me on a new path. I enjoyed it immensely, and you could put on blinders, and you had soundproof headphones, and you listen to the spirit box play forward and backwards, AM and FM at different speeds, and listen for full words, and then you repeated them. So with that being said, we did countless experiments with that, and I have a stack of papers that every voice was recorded. And recently, since then, they've come up on the one ghost, not ghost hunter, ghost stop, on Ghost Stop. And they have not only an SB7, but they have a built-in recorder for it too. So you can hook that up and you can record. It will tell you or verify to everybody else what that person is hearing through the headphones. Recently from that, we had the opportunity at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital to do a double session. And that's two people with two different spirit boxes and headphones, blinders, listening on different frequencies, forward and reverse, higher and lower, and continued to baffle people, because towards the end of what we were doing, between me and the other person who was doing it, which was Kelly, and she's with GRS. It We were bantering back and forth at each other, almost like it was like we were cutting at each other, like, and it was really interesting. And what it was it wasn't really us. It was a few of the spirits that were communicating through us, and they were arguing about things. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've listened to it. I am sold. I know a lot of people out there that listen and try to understand, and there's certain people that can do it, and then there's others that just can't pick up on the way the words come through. And I don't. There's no hypnosis attached to it, but at the same time, you do actually lose something when you go through the process. For instance, what I lost was I've done quite a few sessions where I felt that I didn't pick up very many words, and I was under for like 20 minutes. And I would remember about 5 or 6. And then I didn't remember anything. And when I came out, they'd have a whole sheet of paper with like 35 on there of what I supposedly said. And I have no clue. So it makes it really, really interesting. And it's something that we will continue to do in Shadow Hunters, and I hope with GRS too. For some of the bigger investigations, I know next week we're going with Shadow Hunters, we're going to Pollock Hospital out in Peoria. Excuse me. And everybody's excited about doing it, and I think we're going to do one there too. And just see if we can't get them to talk through us. We have some other people here. We have Anthony. And we have Devin. Hey, Devin, Anthony. Devin's from the Psychic United group. She's a very, very, very neat woman. I'm glad to have met her. So then from there, where do we go? We go to, once again, back to the Haunted Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult. And since last January, this first half of the year went extremely strangely. And there was a lot of synchronicity involved in it. And a lot of that pertained to my involvement in watching again and again a series that the Newkirks put out called Hellier. And that covers pretty much a vast array of everything in the paranormal and ufology. And back in the days when I had noticed it at first, I was young, and it was in the 60s. And it all dealt with the euphonauts, which were a name that the people that wrote a lot of these little paperback books back in the day, right at the time that John Keel was getting going with Mothman prophecies, and that whole idea, the euphonauts idea, took off running with different writers. And that was the term they gave to the pilots of the UFOs. And they all came out with this great idea that said that they're here. And some people seem to think they're underneath the ground. And some people think that there's tons of them. And a lot of this stuff was brought up once again in Hellier. And one of the things that came into play that made me stop to think about it was the fact that I had a lot of friends in eastern Kentucky. Excuse me. In eastern Kentucky, when I did a lot of my muskie fishing tournaments and things out there that started in the mid 80s. And a lot of the guys that I used to fish against were from West Virginia, uh, Kentucky, and I always used to bring up the Mothman, and they used to bring up the fact that they weren't afraid of the Mothman, they were afraid of the little grays, because every one of their houses had a cave behind it, a coal mine, because that's how they heated their houses, and that's what was the big thing out there in that eastern Kentucky was coal mining. So it was very, very interesting. If you ever get a chance, take some time and sit down and watch that series, that Hellier series. It's got season 1 and season 2, and season 3 is coming up. And that's the Newkirks, and that's a couple other people that I was blessed to meet years ago out at the Stanley Hotel, and that is Carl Pfeiffer and Connor Randall, and they were guides on the haunted tours and that at the Stanley, and that's where the Estes method comes from. They're the ones that started it out, and I was fortunate to find it on YouTube and that, and after I saw a program with one of them on it, it was one of the programs on the internet. I watched it and I thought, wow, this is really neat. Because I was dumbfounded I was stymied over the fact that there was no way that we weren't going to be able to contaminate that kind of evidence with EVPs. So the time that I put into it, and I had people from Shadow Hunters who helped us tremendously in having the locations to go ahead and work this kind of magic helps, because you have to have a location that has some sort of spirits. And we were fortunate enough to have somebody in the group. That's Danny. And Danny's been great. And Danny's a member of Shadow Hunters. And he's a wealth of information now because he's one of Dale Kazmarek's star performers. He's put a lot of time and effort into listening, and he's learning, and he's growing, and he's more excited than I ever been. But I'm still, I just still get crazy as a coot when it comes to enjoying something that's new and something that really gets my adrenaline pumping. And that whole thing that we just talked about is that way. If you guys got any questions, go ahead and put them up there, and as we go along, I'll just go ahead and answer them as I hear them or I see them. And besides that, what else can we talk about? We can talk about a book. I just got this book. I think you guys can see it. Hans Holzer, again, Ghosts, True Encounters from the World Beyond. Look how thick it is. I like the little ones. It's all reference. It's all used to that extent. I haven't really come to the point where I actually can use a highlighter as I go through reading the books that I've acquired, because of the things that I want to pay attention to and remember. And I looked at it the other day and says, boy, you're a numbnut for not doing that. I know that a lot of the people that do that part know exactly how much investigation you have to do, how much learning you have to do as far as finding out excuse me, about a haunted location and its history. And every group has a person who's a historian, and that's person's job before everybody goes out to the location is to learn it. Now, you probably all heard that there's different ways of handling that, and some people like to share that information before they go into a location, basically because then they're sort of taking a shortcut as far as going ahead and coming up with names or things that happen to people. One of the reasons why a lot of groups use psychics is for that too, is to find out about what makes a house cook, you know, what's there, what's happened there. And they can pretty much, like you see on a lot of these programs on TV today, they handle it that way. What's great about psychics too is on private investigations, and we're not doing any of those right now with shadow hunters, but the point of having a psychic is, to me, very important because they are your eyes. When you first go into a location like that, especially a private one, as far as seeing the things that we don't really see or feel behind them. Yet I know that I have a great group of people around me that Sharon's very good. Scotty Rourke is very, very, very good. And they're both involved with us. And we've been on a numerous investigations last fall. Not numerous, I think there were 2 or 3 that we got to see quite a bit because of what they saw. And it really helped out in the long run. So that's where everybody's going. Ron Lovett's here. Hey, Ron. So a lot of that stuff, you know, another person, Ron, that's on here. Ron's from GRS. And Ron's been around, and I first met Ron out at Tinker Swiss. And Kathy Kressel is the lady that does all the Haunted Rockford shows and all the events that are held in Rockford pertaining to the paranormal. And there's some unbelievable locations out in Rockford if you ever get an opportunity to go out and just spend some time and understand what you're really seeing, because Tinker Swiss is one example. There's Barnes Manning Mansion, and there's one right next door to it, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but she's done a tremendous job. And Kathy is a librarian in Rockford. Whew, got that one fell out from the sky. And it's good to see that she's done such a tremendous job. And she does events over the years. She's done probably 2 or 3 a year where she does events, and she'll have a paranormal team come in, like GRS or Ghost Head Soup or one of the other groups in the area. And they'll sell tickets. And these people come in so they can learn about how to do investigating. And they can share the equipment that belongs to the paranormal teams. And they go from station to station, and each one of these stations contains 1 or 2 people from one of the groups, and the people from the group explain to the people that come to the station what's going on, what they think is happening there, and if they want to try to investigate into it, grab a piece of equipment and go into 1 or 2 of the rooms. It's been great. I've enjoyed that for the amount of times that we've always helped out at Rockford. working for Kathy and Steve, and it's been tremendous. And if you ever get the opportunity just to go out there to see Tinker Swiss, it's it's John Tinker's little brainchild about what he wanted his house to look like on these sheer cliffs in Rockford when there was nothing else there. Way down below was the one of the branches of the Rock River, and it had a different name, but it flowed right past Tinker Swiss, only like probably 40 or 50 feet below. And I want to say those were granite cliffs. It was granite there. I don't think it was sandstone. But we've done a lot out there. We've done a lot of other locations. I've been involved with a lot of different people. Uh, Dale's had some wonderful people that I've met from way out in New Jersey. Randy Liebeck is the New Jersey rep for Ghost Research Society, and I met him when we did Gettysburg a couple years ago. Besides that, if you got any questions, put them up there. I know that somebody's got to have some kind of question. Manny. Barnes Manny Mansion. Right. Thanks, Dale. I knew you'd pull me through. Uh, as long as we were on the subject of books, another gentleman that came to mind because of what was happening with all those that pandemonium. It was like a giant ghost con, but it was a pandemonium con, and that was done by the Newkirks and everybody back in April, I think it was, when they did on a whole weekend. And they did a series of speakers, and they actually did a whole, like, ghost con, excuse me. And they had these speakers, like one-on-one like this, and just speak about their different subjects. And one of them was a gentleman that you've seen a lot of the ghost shows. His name was John Tenney. And he is a big author as far as, this guy, People, Creatures, and Spirits. And it's different things that he's encountered. Folk tales, legends, and paranormal encounters of the first Northern Americans. If you ever get the opportunity to catch him on any of his shows, and he has a show that he comes on and banters on as a lot of the people that did Hellier said. He's very interesting. He had his own ghost show with, trying to remember, it was just him and this blonde-haired guy that screamed. And they did about 2 years of it, Ghost Chasers, something like that. But he's always has a shirt and a tie on, dark hair, dresses really differently for hunting ghosts. But anyway, I know that Nicholas is on here now, so maybe Nicholas will have a question or have an idea what to do next. Tickle, tickle. Sharon says, tickle, tickle. When we can hear you, you're doing fine. Nobody has a question?
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure either. Excuse me just for a moment. I just wanted to check that. I don't know what I mentioned in the beginning, when I said that we weren't having Jason Snyder on tonight. I don't know if I mentioned everything about him and his great crew, but I better put it out there again because he's going to be of vital importance down the road as far as the paranormal is concerned in southern Illinois. I know that for sure, and I know he's got a great team. And I don't mind talking about all my friends that have great teams and who they are and where they're at, and it's great to be on a paranormal team in this location because there's a lot to do in northern Illinois, Fox Chain of Lakes. As far as what our history was and what was here before us, and where my house sits was part of a farm that was owned by this gentleman by the name of Miltmore, who I'm right off the lake, and the lake is called Lake Miltmore, and it was all Indians, and of course that was part of the way of their living was going from water to water, because they can always find the best and most abundant life for eating and keeping their people healthy along the waters of northern Illinois and up into Wisconsin. What else? I didn't bring up too much about some of the other things that I do, and I'm sure that some of the people that are watching know a little bit about the other, like Charles Williams or Chuck Williams from GRS always calls me the paranormal muskie fisherman. So it's always interesting because the reason I really jumped back in was the fact that I'm always in the process of trying to not only fish for muskies, but at night do some investigating. And I've been fortunate enough to have been at a resort in northern Wisconsin for about 40 years. And they have their resident spirit there. And I've had the opportunity to talk to them. And I've had them respond. And I have been by myself, which makes it even neater because you can go in and have all them lights off and you can go in this massive, it was the main lodge, so it has big beams and stairs that go up and made with birch and pine and you name it, and the floors are all crazy, and it's got an old piano and it's got the old mailboxes, the old metal mailboxes that they used to have that when they were the post office for the whole area, people would come there to get their mail. So it would come to Star Lake. So it was really, really interesting to know a little bit more of the history. I've been picking up different things now on it, and last year I've been trying to verify a part of the gentleman spirit, and I'm just going to say that I had words come up on a few of my devices and a few of the applications, because I'll use a phone app out there too, and there's a spirit box app that was released like last year, a little later than that. That's one that you have to be careful with because it does attract the other side. So I was picking up words on that. One of them was hernia, and I was going, well, This particular gentleman died on his wedding day, and he ran the mill. It was his business, and supposedly he lost his head that day. And maybe one of the reasons why he couldn't get out of the way of the log or whatever it was that the accident, I was just putting things together in my head. And figured it was probably, maybe he had that hernia and he couldn't move fast enough. And then pow, he's done. So, hard to believe. There's a couple more people here too. I don't know how long they've been on, but it's good to see their names. When you talk about different situations in the paranormal and the groups and the credibility, I am very glad to say that the ones that I'm involved with are very, very credible today. And that's the kind of thing you sort of look for in a group, because you can always count on them, because they'll always have your back and you'll have theirs. It's a shame to see where this whole field is going these days compared to the days of the big paracons and things like that. And Ursula Bielski, who's a very close friend of mine, and Shadowhunters and Nicholas's and Sharon's and everybody else up here, is putting an event together. And just like this Pandemonium Con, she's talking about the same idea, or was. And I don't know, I haven't been talking to her lately, so she could have changed a month and a half ago. This is when Pandemonium Con first came out, and then she was talking about setting something up like that. And then I heard that it was going to be a real one. And that would be good too. But with the way things are today, everybody would be wearing masks. It'd be pretty hard to handle. So we don't have any questions. What do we have here now? We got Melissa Good. Ron Lovett. Ron, do you have any questions? Melissa, do you have a question or two? Anybody? Where's Sharon at? Sharon, got a question? It's 8:48. We got 12 minutes. Give me 2 questions, please. You can type them out. See if I can remember what they say. I know we're going to have to go ahead and push back a little bit on a couple of these Fridays that we had people on. I know that Charles Williams, or Chuck Williams, who happens to be a documentarian, he does documentaries, movies on, he's done one that was called 1,000 Words. It was on Bachelor's Grove and The Lady in White, or the lady sitting on the tombstone, that was recorded by Judy Huff back when she was a member of GRS. And we did that whole production. He had everybody together to do that, and it was really interesting. So, and he did about 3 more of them. He did another one about the day the train didn't come to town, and that was about a circus train that crashed in Gary, Indiana in about 1916, I want to say, when troop transport cars were carrying U.S. troops back and forth for deployment in Europe. And this circus train had all performers on there and their families and everything in the last three cars of this train, and they blew a wheel bearing, and it was red hot, and they had to pull off to replace it. And the butt end of the train was sitting out on the main track. They didn't have enough room to put the whole train in. So they were trying to flag down this troop train, and they say the engineer fell asleep, and he plowed right back into the back end of this train and killed like 40 some people. All these circus performers and a few of the animals and things like that. So did a tremendous job on that documentary too. There's another gentleman that I would love to be able to get on the show. His name is J.C. Rositas. If the spirits could talk, or if the walls could talk. And that was about Whispers Estates in Indiana. And that is also a very interesting place. It's one of the places, I haven't been there yet, and I'm dying to get there, and hopefully somebody will come and rescue me and take me there. I don't know, a fat chance. But it's been very, very interesting. I know there's a lot of people that are around that do care, and I know that I would love to see an event take place like what they did Hunt the Town in Antioch. I want to say it was 2 years ago now. They did it in June. So it was a year ago this last June. And it was exceptional because different groups went to different locations in town, different businesses that supposedly had this or that going on. And they had a Masonic lodge and a theater and a bunch of these stores, and it was a great event. There were a ton of people there, and the people would do that same thing where they would rotate from one location to the next, and they'd be in there for like 40 minutes, and it took all night. I mean, we were done at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was great. A lot of real great evidence. We were at a place called JJ Blinkers, and it was Dale and I, Dale Kazmarek and me. And we had a lot of things happening, and Dale's got a Phasma box that he was using, and that Phasma box was spitting out all sorts of different voices and words. So that was interesting. That was very, 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 very neat. I think if we ever have to do this again, and it's going to be for the extent of this show like tonight, I'd like to get into a couple different pieces of equipment and show you some of the stuff that we use for shadow hunters now. We do have one here. I can show you this. This is something that we show in our videos. This is a portal. And it picks up spirits, and it's got amplifiers that cut down on the interference and produce the raw words that come through. And it was something that I got last year. And we've had some pretty good things happen with it. And I know that I'd like to continue carrying it on with it this year, so I know it's getting a little late. Let's see if Whispers some years ago. Dale says that GRS was out there. Robin is on. Hi, Robin. Tiffany, glad to see you. I know. No, you didn't miss Jason. All our internets are all screwed up, so I asked him to come back when we could go ahead and really put on a good show with him and not have to worry about things once we get the situation rectified. So I know, Robin, say hello to Keith, please. I'd appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll see you somewhere this summer. I know Ron asked a question. It's there. What was your first experience? Okay, my first one was Gettysburg, and that's the one that I said earlier in the show tonight. And that was not only myself, but like I said, my father, my sister, my grandmother, and my uncle, because my mother was still in the hospital with polio, so she was nowhere to be found, so she wasn't there. And I was 10, and she had already been gone since, I want to say I was 2.5 when they took her. So all the horses and one of the things that I connected on with that, excuse me, that I connected on was with a gentleman that is a close friend of Dale's by the name of Mark Nesbitt, who happens to be a very big author on all the ghosts of Gettysburg. And he's a great man. I met him. We had a great time with him. And I'm sure that I hope to get to meet him again out there sometime. I don't know about this year. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it or not. But it would be good to get back out there. At the same time Dale's going out with GRS, I'll be up north. So that isn't going to happen. But where was I at besides that? Well, it's out of all those and some of the first investigations that we were at with GRS were all smaller investigations down in Indiana. And the locations, I'd have to go ahead and write them all down before I even tried to think of them now, because I never remember all of them. We did like 5 or 6 one day, and it was really something road, Reader Road. We did a Red Schoolhouse. I can't remember the towns though. We did a Sip Coffee House. Dale's giving me a good mark now, I bet. And then we did Sip Coffee House 2 the next year, I think it was. And that was down in where the jail is from Dellinger. How could I forget the name of that town? Well, you know what? I'm not even going to try. It's been great. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm sorry if I bored you to death, but it's so neat to be able to talk to you guys, and Nicholas has been very nice to go ahead and let us continue to run Shadow Hour the way we want to, and he doesn't need to do everything, because the poor guy's getting tore apart by doing all the work that he does, and then posting everything on the pages and doing everything for the shows, and he does it all. So it's about time that some of us stepped up and helped him go ahead and got him to enjoy this a little more. And with that, I'm just going to sign off and say, hey, it's been great. I'm sorry once again if I bored you. And I hope to see you soon. We'll see you guys later. Have a good night. Have a good 4th. And keep all your fingers.